Somebody's going to have their best year in real estate this year. Why not you? I'm going to share with you today 3 areas that if you'll just focus on these areas, it can add an additional at least 24 transactions in the coming year. Let me start by sharing this. This is an environment where workers will be rewarded. So what is it that you've done in the past that has gotten you to this point? That's probably not going to be what it's going to take to get you to the next level going forward. So I'm going to be pretty straightforward with you today. I'm going to give you exactly what you need to do. Now, the question is going to be, at what level are you willing to make the sacrifices needed to do the additional work to move your business ahead? It's not a matter of if, but when will this market begin to take back off again? But in the meantime, what is it that you're going to do that can absolutely take you to the next level, even though everybody else seems to be retreating? This video, I'm going to give you 3 areas to focus on. And I'm going to give you 7 specific strategies on how to make sure that you're maximizing each of those opportunities. By the end of this video, I promise, if you stick around and you take action on these things that we're going to discuss, your business can't help but get better. Also, if you haven't had a chance yet to go in and subscribe to the YouTube channel, I would encourage you to do that. Also, click the little bell down there at the bottom. That's going to give you the ability to know each time that we post a new video. We're trying to do at least 2 a week to help you grow your business. The first area to focus on is the number of conversations. Now, look, we've talked about this in the past where on average it's 50 real estate related conversations generates 1 transaction. Well, we're in an environment where 50 real estate related conversations is going to be the average, but that may skew a little higher because we're in an environment where people are trying to make decisions or trying to figure out what they're going to do. So it may be a few higher than it is typically for you. Some of you, it's only 20 calls, depending on what your database looks like. But what I want to do is I'm going to encourage you and talk to you about where you can make those calls. It's not just about having the conversations. Who are you talking to and what is the topic that you're discussing? So I'm going to give you 7 specific areas where you can have these conversations. And also I want to encourage you, because we're trying to break through, think of it this way, when a rocket ship is taking off and it's leaving gravity, the most energy expended is right on the takeoff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to encourage you, these numbers we're talking about where if you're wanting 2 transactions per month, you need 100 real estate related conversations. I want to encourage you over the next first couple of months to absolutely double that. Go in and make 200 calls. So what does that look like? It's 50 per week. It's 10 per day. It's not that much, but what it does is it gives you the ability really to stretch out, add some value at the beginning, create some momentum, and once you get the momentum going, then everything else is going to fall into place. So let's start with where are these conversations going to come from? So what is that number for you? I mentioned that it's typically 100 per month to get 2 transactions or 1 transaction per 50 conversations. If we break down the 50, then we're looking at 12 and a half per week. It's not that many. But if we're looking at 100 conversations in a week, we're talking about basically 25 per week, 5 per day. Now these are not just the, hey, how are you guys doing? These are real estate specific related conversations where there's a question about what they want, what their thoughts are on either buying or selling. So let's go through some of these and talk about these 7 different ways that you can generate these conversations. First area we want to start with is past clients and sphere of influence. This is the low-hanging fruit. Having the conversations. Hey, you guys still happy with the house at the end of the conversation? Or checking in with someone that's in your sphere of influence and asking them, hey, if you hear of anyone that's thinking about buying or selling, I appreciate you in advance keeping me in mind and letting me know if I can help in any way. Having those conversations with your past clients, with your sphere of influence, the people that already know, like, and trust you, that it may not be the business you do with them, but it'll be the referrals that they would send. These are highly effective ways for you to generate referrals and to find your next few transactions. Number 2 is expired listings and for sale by owners. This is the time to be putting together a strategy where you're following up with these expired listings, with these for sale by owners. These are people that have said they want to sell their house. They haven't had the right agent, and they also probably haven't had someone shoot them straight, or they weren't ready at that time to hear what they needed to hear to actually make that happen and get that sale closed. So what is it that you can do? Follow up with these. Another area with the expired listings is to look back to those that expired 3 to 12 months ago. Those that have basically taken the barrage of people that came at them when they first listed. Those agents, if they don't relist immediately, a lot of them fade. Now you've got an opportunity to call and say, hey, I saw where your listing expired 6 months ago. Just want to check in and see what you guys have planned for the house. This is a great area to have great, solid conversations with potential potential sellers. The third way to have conversation is to use buyers as bait. Do you have buyers that you haven't been able to find a house for? If you don't, I'll promise you there's someone in your office that has. Finding someone that has a very specific understanding of what they want. They want to be in a certain neighborhood, or they want a certain number of bedrooms in a certain school district, or they want to be on a certain street. Utilizing that and simply calling the owners on that street with something along these lines. Hey, this is Jimmy Burgess with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Beach Properties of Florida. I was just checking in. We've got a family that really wants to be in your neighborhood with at least 4 bedrooms. I'm just reaching out because I'm trying to do everything I can to find the ideal place for them and see if there might be someone that's considering selling where it could be a win-win. These folks might be willing to pay a premium if they find the right place because they haven't been able to find it so far. Have you heard of any of your neighbors that might consider selling? You don't even have to ask them, they'll tell you. But by utilizing this and having this opportunity to speak to these folks and identify someone that might be willing to sell is going to generate listings and generate opportunities for you to have that next transaction. Fourth way to generate these conversations is hosting open houses. We're seeing right now, some of the numbers we're seeing at open houses is through the roof. It's as many as I've ever seen at open houses. Again, that goes back to limited inventory, it goes back to buyer demand, and it goes back to the season of the year we're in as well. Hosting open houses gets you nose to nose, toes to toes with people that are looking at houses. This also gives you the ability to identify possibly some sellers. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But hosting open houses will absolutely get you those conversations you're looking for. The fifth way is to buy lunch, not leads. We talked about calling your sphere of influence and your past clients, but why not just go for coffee, a cocktail, or for lunch with one of your past clients? Get to know them, build relationships. By building relationships and by doing something for someone else, it absolutely gets that law of reciprocity working where they're beginning to wonder, how can I pay this back to them? How can I thank them for being someone that has effectively helped my life get better? When you do those things, you're absolutely going to have great conversations, and it's going to lead to additional conversations as well. Number 6 is little help posts. These are posts that you're going to post on Facebook. Remember that buyer we were talking about, or maybe it's someone else? Simply going on Facebook and saying, I could use a little help. If anyone knows of someone considering selling a 4-bedroom house in this area, please let me know. I have someone that is looking and would possibly be willing to pay a premium if they found the right place. What you'll notice when you make these posts is you'll get direct messages, or sometimes people will even put the person's name in the comment section, which ding, that's someone that you definitely want to follow up with because that's a friend of theirs identifying someone that's considering selling. This is a great way to generate some opportunities for some very, very high valuable conversations. Number 7 is online leads. Now, you can be buying these leads. This could be in a pool of buyers that are leads that you've bought in the past, whatever the case may be. I put this last because this is a very, very, you have to understand, there's over 100 million leads that were sold last year, and there were only 5 million transactions. So these are going to be people that are sold to multiple agents. This is going to be something where, yes, there is opportunity. However, you're going to have conversations that may take a little while to actually turn into a sale. Whatever it is, though, we're looking for the conversations. Get your reps. Have the conversations. I promise the transactions will follow. The second area to focus on is a little bit more midterm to longer term as far as having the conversation generates opportunities right now. But the second area is to add a minimum of 25 people to your database every single week. Now, you're going to be having the conversations, but why not be adding these people? Now, when you're first starting, this could be people that you just haven't ever done this with, where you haven't added them to your database, but you know them. We want to make sure that we're adding value to people in a consistent way, that when the opportunity comes, we're going to be the person they think of as far as real estate. So what I want to do is I want to give you 7 things that you need to focus on as you're adding these people to your database to make sure that you maximize every single opportunity. The first thing we want to make sure that we're doing when we're talking about adding people to your database is that we want to make sure that we put as much information as possible into that description for them. We want to know, do they have have they told you that they have a child that maybe is going to college in a year or so and they might want to downsize? We want to have that in their description. Did they say that they maybe consider selling in the next 12 to 18 months, or they may be moving closer to grandchildren, or they may be looking to buy a second home? Whatever it is, we want to add as much information in the description as we can. Here's what happens when you're adding as many people as we're going to be adding to your database. When you get queued in the next 6 months to call them again, it's real easy to go back in and see and get cue your mind back to that conversation. You're going to remember when they said, hey, we're probably got a daughter that's getting ready to graduate and going to college. Hey, last time we talked, you mentioned that your daughter's getting ready to go to college. Has she decided where she might want to go? Hey, has that changed anything about your time frame for when you guys might decide to sell your place or to downsize like we talked about on your last conversation? All of these are activities that give us an opportunity to pick up conversations down the road and remember exactly what was going on before. If they have a closing with them, ask the closing agent to get you their birthdays. It's on their license. Also, that way you can send something on their birthdays, or you can stay in touch with them. If they mention an anniversary, if you see something on Facebook where they had an anniversary, adding all of that information into the database. The person who has the most information and uses that to build a deeper and stronger relationship will absolutely have the opportunity to have more transactions. The second thing when it comes to database is to make sure that every single person in your database is receiving information about properties they're either interested in potentially buying or in the home that they currently own. The reason for this is it gives them updates on what's going on in the market. It also automates the process. You can set this up for a week, for a day, whatever you decide to do. You can do this with your MLS. We use Boomtown. It automates it in there for us where we can see what they do once they get on there. But the key is to be adding value on a consistent basis. By setting this up once, I've got people that 10 years ago I set up in our MLS and I still get emails that it's sending them property about certain neighborhoods. What is it that you can do to automate this process that consistently puts your branding, shows you adding value so that when the time does come, you're the person they think of immediately. Third thing is that if they own a home, make sure they're set up on Hombot. Also, even if it's not in your area, make sure they're set up on Hombot. So Hombot is a system that's available. It costs very little on a monthly basis, and it gives you the ability to set someone up to receive a very detailed, probably the most detailed report I've ever seen for a homeowner. It talks about their equity. It has all the data points, so it talks about where they are in their mortgage. It gives them opportunities back in a day on refinancing or cash out or HELOC loan type things where they could take cash out to purchase an investment property. What might that look like? It's going to give them a detailed report, and it's going to have your branding on there, and right on the front it has them where they can click to ask a question of you. This is a great way to automate the process of adding value to homeowners specifically so that when the time comes for them to sell or they're considering buying an investment property, immediately on a monthly basis, they're receiving a high quality report that keeps you front and center. The fourth step for those homeowners that you're adding to your database is to do an unsolicited video CMA. This is where you're going to record your screen. You're going to give them a rough idea of where their value is. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is something that will be absolutely different. You're going to start with Google Earth on the top of this. As soon as you start the video, you're going to be in the corner. This could be on Zoom. This could be on BombBomb. You're going to record your screen. You're going to show them this coming from outer space on top of their house. You just punch their address in on Google Earth. It's free. Starts the video off and you say, hey, I just want to give you an idea of where your value is as of this date. You're going to go in and then you're going to go through the comps. You're going to give them an estimated net sheet, and you're going to be out of there in 3 to 4 minutes on this video. The difference is you set yourself apart. You're also not going to ask them if they want to sell their house. You're simply going to say, hey, listen, I'm giving you a range of value. But if you're curious about what your house would sell for in today's environment, it'd take me 5 minutes to walk through the house and I can tell you exactly what it'd sell for. Another way to add value, especially those people that you're putting into your database, where you set the tone for adding more value than anyone else in the marketplace. Number 5, when it comes to your database and what we want to do to set the tone is if this is a buyer, we've talked about if it's a homeowner or a potential seller. What if it's a buyer? I would encourage you to do a video overview of a specific property. Show them what you do that's different from everyone else. So take a property maybe that might fit their criteria and say, hey, listen, I just want to send you a video to give you an overview of this property. Record your screen. Have you down in the bottom. You're going to have a map pulled up, an aerial map pulled up that's going to show you where this house is in relation to any amenities that are important to them. You're also going to show in that neighborhood where the houses that have sold. So you show them a comparative analysis of what the value might be of that house. Then you're going to go through and you're going to go flip through a few of the pictures and say a couple things that I really stood out for me are this and this. This is just can be short. It can be 1 minute and say, listen, typically I'm going to expand on this when we get down to the property that you're really interested in. But I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that I do that's a little different than anyone else to make sure that we find you the ideal place and that you've got all the information you need to make the best decision for you and your family. When you set yourself apart before adding them into this database or when you add them into this database, I promise you're going to be memorable. Number 6, as far as the database is make sure you segment them. Segment them as a buyer or a seller. And the reason being is this makes it easier for us to do communication to the different places. For us, utilizing Boomtown, and most of them are going to have something, we call them tags. So in other words, I'm going to tag them as a buyer, or I'm going to tag them as a seller, or I'm going to tag them as both if there's somebody that's going to sell and then buy. I'm also going to tag them by the area they're in. I'm going to tag them by the price range they're in. I'm going to tag them by amenities they're looking for, whatever it may be. This gives me the ability that if I take a new listing in a certain subdivision, then I can segment the database to just buyers. I can segment it down to someone that the group that has a certain amenity they're looking for, a certain number of bedrooms. And then I have the ability to be very specific with my communication going out to those folks. The more specific we are in our communication to our database, the more likely we are to find that ideal person for that property that we're giving information on. Also, it gives them an appreciation. We're not just blasting them with things all the time. We're giving them consistent, valuable information that is pertinent to them. When we do that, I'll promise you're going to stand out from the rest of your competition. Last but probably the most important is to set a to-do for future follow-up. Listen, it's one thing just to get them in your database, but when are you going to follow up with them? How are you going to add value to them? If it's a homeowner they said they're going to be selling in possibly in the next 18 months, when will you send them? In 3 months, you'll send them another unsolicited video CMA, or maybe you'll give them information. Whatever it is, set a to-do in your calendar. This could be on your phone, this could be in your CRM, whatever it is, for follow-up with that client. Again, we've given a full description of that conversation we had in our past in the database. So in 3 months, 6 months, when we follow up with this person, we're going to have talking points that we can speak of. Hey, it's been a little while since I checked in with you guys. Just checking to see if anything's changed. I know you mentioned that your daughter was getting ready to go to college. Just curious if she's picked a place out. Again, we want to have something in the future where we're following up with these folks so that we can add value in the future, not just from a standpoint of being able to add the value, but doing it in a way that they know that they were important to us and that we're paying attention. The last area to focus in on is to take 2 listings per month. You want to have 24 transactions? Take 2 listings per month. Now, everybody always says this, but what will I do? How will I generate these listings? I'm going to give you some exact strategies on how you can generate these listings. The bottom line is this: if you control the listings, you control the market. Used to be that we used to say that every single listing we took should generate 2 additional transactions. Well, here's where we are right now. If you're marketing these listings in a proper way, you're probably going to get more than just those 2 additional transactions, because it's going to create opportunities for you to spread the word of what you do and how you do it in a different way. So let's get specifically to these strategies so that you can begin to take these listings. If you need listings right now, the first place to start looking is with expired listings or for sale by owners, or both. And let me just say this: these are folks that have raised their hand. They want to sell. They just have not been able either to get it priced correctly, have the right agent, have someone that market the property properly, or whatever it may be. Now you can solve that problem for them. Also, in a lot of cases, a few years ago when for sale by owners, they really didn't need us. They could put a sign in the yard and they would have vultures show up with 4 to 5, 6 offers. That's not the case today. Also, when you're looking at expired listings, we didn't have any expired listings because everything's sold. Now, everything but comes down to who is the professional that can have and help make things happen when others didn't. Expertise right here is something that you can do. Develop a plan and a strategy of follow-up for these expired listings, for these for sale by owners. And I'll promise, not only going to generate listings, but you're going to generate transactions as well. The second way to generate listings is to host open houses. Now, I know we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to give you a little strategy here. When you're hosting an open house, go the extra level. Make sure that you invite all of the neighbors. You can do this through door knocking. You can do this through phone calls. You can do this through however you want it, through mail, whatever it is you want to do. Make sure you're inviting the neighbors. If your open house is going to be from 11 to 1, for instance, on Saturday, host and let the owners know in the neighborhood that, hey, I'll be there between 10 and 11 in case you want to avoid all of the traffic of the other people we're anticipating being there. Come between 10 and 11 and I'll make sure that I give you a private tour. You get to see it before the masses get there. This does a couple things. Number 1, it sets them apart. Number 2, when someone shows up between 10 and 11, odds are that is an owner in the neighborhood. This is a potential nosy neighbor that's curious on how this house compares to theirs, which is a potential seller. By hosting open houses, you'll be amazed when you host an open house in a neighborhood, anyone that's considering selling is absolutely going to do the best that they can to be at that open house, so in their mind they can begin to compare what is their price and what does their terms look like compared to the one that's on the market right now. Number 3 is circle prospecting. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about using buyers as bait, so to speak, where we're saying there's a specific buyer. That will absolutely work on identifying listings, because even if it's not right for that family or that person or that buyer, they've raised their hand and said, well, I might consider selling. Now you found someone that you have a potential listing for. Another way that circle prospecting helps is that there was a NAR statistic that came out that said 15% of people that are within 25 homes, when basically in the area around a home that sells, will consider, 15% will consider selling within the next 3 months. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to sell, but they're going to consider it at least. So think about that. If you're making 20 calls, that means you got 3 potential people that are at least considering selling. So calling with information about a recent sale. Hey, the house 5 doors down from you just recently sold. Not sure if you saw the details, but it absolutely affects your value. Just curious if you got the details on that sale. No, we didn't. Okay, well, what does that mean to my value? Now you have a conversation with a potential person. Again, this is a way that we can uncover some opportunities that maybe we wouldn't see unless we make these phone calls. Next up is calling out-of-town lot and home owners. There's not as much emotion here. These are typically investors, or these are people that maybe bought a lot, for instance, with an understanding that they were going to build on it later. Now, this is going to give us a couple of opportunities. Odds are, if they haven't checked in the last few years, the value of that lot or that house has gone up pretty dramatically. Yes, the market has flattened, but there still is equity in a lot of these places. Calling and just saying, hey, notice you've owned this lot in this neighborhood for the last 5 years. Just curious what your plans are for it. Or, hey, notice you have this house that is probably an investment property for you. Just curious if you're still happy with that, or if you're looking for potentially other places. Most of these investors are typically people that are going to move. They're going to be repositioning. They're going to be buying and selling. This is a great way to find some opportunities that have less emotion than a primary residence, that give you the opportunity to list some property and also generate some sales. The 5th way to generate listing is to place every single homeowner you know in Hombot. Now listen, a lot of times we're talking about people in your database. Put family members, put neighbors, put anyone that you know that owns a home into Hombot that's going to automatically send them information about their house that is going to be very professional, going to be very good report that they're going to want to look at each and every month. Again, this is an opportunity for us to keep our name and our professionalism front and center with all of these different people. Sometimes we just think, oh, well, our friends and our family, they're always going to think of me as a realtor in case they hear of something. That's not always the case. What is it that we're going to do consistently? Adding everyone you know that owns a home to Hombot will absolutely help give you more opportunities to take more listings. The 6th way is to focus on life events. You know, when the number of transactions come down, there are still life events that make people or give people the understanding that they probably need to make a change. If they have a wedding, odds are they're going to want to start looking for a place. Maybe they own 2 in today's environment and want to sell 1 and move into 1. Or maybe it's divorce. Maybe they're going through divorce. Odds are that there's going to have to be a house that's going to be sold. Probate listings. Probate is basically when someone passes away, the estate a lot of times will have to liquidate the asset of the home that they owned. Also, births. When they have a birth announcement, that gives us an understanding that when someone is actually going to have a baby, a lot of times that nesting, so to speak, begins to happen. This gives you an opportunity to find some people that are ideally looking for an opportunity to either sell the current home they have or to upgrade or buy a new home for themselves. Number 7, and probably the most important, is to do 1 video unsolicited CMA for a homeowner every single day. Again, I did this for 3 months, generated over $11 million just simply doing 1 per day that I was working. If you will add value through these video unsolicited CMAs that we talked about earlier on a consistent basis, you will consistently have listing opportunities. These are the things to focus in on. Make sure that you're focusing in on having at least 100 conversations as quickly as possible. Also, make sure that you're focusing in on adding people consistently to your database. The more, the better. Also, finally, last but not least, control the listings. Focus on taking listings. Do the strategies on a daily and consistent basis of adding value to homeowners, and I promise your business can't help but grow. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.